Welcome, UCF fans, to another year, another season, the inaugural 2022 edition of UCF football. Now, I am Mike Bianchi, sports columnist of the Orlando Sentinel. That man on the other side of the screen is Jason Beede, UCF insider, UCF beat writer for the Orlando Sentinel. Jason, are you fired up for another season?
I am. I'm glad the show's back. I mean, when we record the first episode, college football is right around the corner, and I'm ready for this thing to kick off.
By the way, the reason I'm wearing this Orlando Apollos hat, I was at Steve Spurrier's restaurant last week in Gainesville, and he had the Orlando Apollos trophy front and center, right in the front of the restaurant. So this is paying homage to the great Orlando Apollos. All right, let's start off, though we're going to pay homage to UCF's new starting quarterback. Gus Malzahn announced it a few days ago. John Rhys Plumlee, the Ole Miss transfer. He beats out Mikey Keene for the starting quarterback job. Is this a good decision, Jason Beede?
It's a good decision for Gus Malzahn and his offense and what he wants to do. Is Mikey Keene the better quarterback? Probably. Is John Rhys Plumlee the right quarterback for his offense and what Malzahn wants to do? I think so. So with that being said, John Rhys Plumlee is your starting quarterback.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see John Rhys Plumlee. You wrote a story earlier this week about how Gus Malzahn has compared John Rhys Plumlee to Nick Marshall, the quarterback at Auburn that took them to the national championship game against Florida State. Obviously, Gus Malzahn has had a lot of success with running/passing quarterbacks. Cam Newton comes to mind as well. So I'm excited to see this. Oftentimes, though, Jason, when one quarterback wins the quarterback battle, the other quarterback, we've seen it a lot in college football, the other quarterback transfers. Is Mikey Keene the type of player that will transfer now?
I think he's not going to transfer right away. You have to remember the reason why Mikey Keene even got to see the field as a true freshman. Dylan Gabriel got hurt in week 3. I'm not saying John Rhys Plumlee is going to get hurt or he's going to play bad or whatever, but I think that means what it really points to is just how chaotic college football is. And I think Gus Malzahn told us that he told Mikey Keene they're still going to need him this season to win football games. How many games he starts, how many games he plays, that's not clear right now. But I think Mikey Keene is smart enough to realize that he's still needed around this team. Maybe after this season, he decides to transfer. I think at that point, a lot of people would, understand why he would be making that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, John Rhys Plumlee, known as a running quarterback. And when you're a running quarterback, Mikey Keene's only one play away from perhaps being the starting quarterback again. All right, let's talk about the transfer portal. UCF lost a lot in the transfer portal. They gained a lot in the transfer portal. Major gains in the transfer portal. John Rhys Plumlee, of course, from Ole Miss. Kobe Hudson from Auburn. Javon Baker from Alabama. Major losses. Dylan Gabriel, their starting quarterback, goes to Oklahoma, where he's a Heisman Trophy candidate in the preseason. Jalen Robinson, probably their most talented receiver. And Tatum Bethune, their best linebacker, goes to Florida State. All right, Jason Beede, you've analyzed this roster. What they get? 18 players in the transfer portal. They gained and they lost 24. Total net gain, total net loss. Does UCF win or lose the transfer portal?
I think UCF wins. I think it's close. I think losing Tatum Bethune was a major loss for the defense. You've seen how, Travis Williams has said the linebacker room, the only position where it's a big question mark on defense, really. That's because of Tatum Bethune transferring to Florida State. If you had him and Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste back, they'd be set, really. Losing Dylan Gabriel, I know he didn't play for a good portion of the season, but if Dylan Gabriel were healthy and back, they'd probably be favored to win every single game this season. You look at the quarterback battle. Yes, John Rhys Plumlee is Gus Malzahn's guy. He wasn't the first guy they went after. They went after Bo Nix. They went after, Michael Penix, and who went to Washington, and some of these other quarterbacks in the portal. So because of the question at quarterback, it was questionable how things played out. With that being said, though, you mentioned Jalen Robinson being their best wide receiver. I think there's legitimate buzz that Javon Baker could be even better than Jalen was at full health. They added Kamori Gamble from the University of Florida at tight end. I mean, he's an SEC tight end. They added a couple key guys on the offensive line. Ryan Swoboda comes in with 4 years of experience from the ACC in Virginia. They added a couple FCS All-Americans, Tylen Grable and Jason Johnson at linebacker. So I just think, yes, they lost a lot, but the amount of talent, I think the quality over quantity in terms of the additions is why they're a net gain.
All right, Florida State coach Mike Norvell's been asked this question a lot over the last few weeks. I'm going to ask you this question about UCF. Is UCF relying too much on the transfer portal to build a roster? And is this the way you can build? Is this just a quick fix, or can you build a roster long-term through the transfer portal?
I think at this point right now, UCF seems to be in a good spot with how they use the portal. I have questions about the future of the offensive line and its recruiting. I think certain positions you have to recruit high school players and actually develop them. If you need an extra tight end or another wide receiver, there's always going to be skilled players in the portal that really just plug and play. I mean, John Rhys Plumlee is a plug and play guy. But in terms of building your roster the right way, I think they're at a good point right now where Gus Malzahn still understands that high school recruiting is how you develop a good foundation.
All right, a new feature this year on UCF Football Now. We're calling it In or Out. I'm going to present a topic, and we're going to talk about whether we are in or out on that topic. Let's start with the UCF offense. After years of a pass-heavy offense, obviously Scott Frost had Mackenzie Milton. Josh Heupel had Dylan Gabriel and Mackenzie Milton. They threw the ball a lot. It looks like this year's offense under Gus Malzahn is going to be a run-heavy offense. Are you in or out on a run-heavy offense, Jason Beede?
I personally like a more balanced offense, so I'm out on this. That's just because I think you have too much talent at wide receiver. Ryan O'Keefe, Javon Baker, Kobe Hudson, Kamori Gamble, Alec Holler. To run the ball really with John Rhys Plumlee, Isaiah Bowser. I know they're loaded at running back behind Bowser with Johnny Richardson. I'm out. I think they need to be more balanced and use all of the talent on the field.
I'm in on this. I am so excited to see John Rhys Plumlee. I mean, he might be the fastest guy on the roster, or if he's not the fastest guy on the roster, he's close to it. We've talked about the success Gus Malzahn has had with dual threat quarterbacks with Cam Newton and Nick Marshall. I am in on this. I think they can win a lot of games this year with a run-heavy offense. All right, UCF unveiled their 3 new uniforms a couple of weeks ago. Are you in and out on the new jerseys?
I'm in on them. I think you needed a new modern look. They didn't overdo it. I think it gets the job done for what they want right now, and I think the players like it.
I have no opinion on this. I am not a uniform guy. All right. If they wore the old Penn State generic uniforms, as long as they win, I don't care what they're wearing. All right. UCF obviously recruiting, and everybody wants to make a big impact on recruits. UCF brought a Rolls Royce to a recruiting event this summer. Are you in or out on the Rolls Royce?
I understand that it's cool, the big flashy car. I'm actually out on this, That's because you're not going to be driving a Rolls Royce at UCF. They're not going to be handing out cars, not for a long time at least, maybe down the line. But at this point right now, a high school recruit won't be driving a Rolls Royce. So I just think it's a little misleading.
I'm in on it. Obviously, colleges just try to have the wow factor. Obviously, we saw it at the University of Florida when they opened their big palatial football facility with all the bells and whistles. You're just trying to impress the recruits and, just give them something to go, man, this place is really cool. So I'm in on it. I think the players know they're not going to be driving around in Rolls Royces at UCF. All right. Speaking of transfers, are you in or out on Timmy McClain? All right. Timmy McClain is the USF quarterback who lost the starting job at USF and immediately announced he's transferring to UCF. Are you in or out on Timmy McClain transferring to UCF?
I'm in on him transferring to UCF. I think it's a great addition to the quarterback room. He's obviously a talented player. Even if he doesn't see the field at UCF, his connections to Sanford Seminole High School, that's become a recruiting hotbed
Hot bread?
Sorry.
I love hot bread with a little butter on it. Oh, yeah.
A recruiting hotbed. Thank you very much, Mike. I think having the connections and continuing that recruiting pipeline to Sanford Seminole High School is really important for UCF and what they want to do. So having him there just continues to build that pipeline, bare minimum for recruiting. That's why I'm in.
There is nothing like Zaza's hot Cuban bread with butter on it. That is hot bread now. Oh, let me tell you. But I'm out on Timmy McClain coming to UCF. I don't like it when a player immediately loses out on a starting job and immediately transfers. Now, obviously, it's his right. He can do what he wants, but I don't like it. I'm out on it. All right, conference, Big Ten. Wow. They have made an impact this summer. Obviously, they added USC and UCLA. They expanded. They signed a mega unprecedented TV deal with Fox, CBS, and NBC. They make more TV money than even the SEC makes. I'm wondering, Jason Beede, is Big Ten expansion, how does that affect UCF's new conference, the Big 12?
I think there was a slight bit of panic from UCF fans when they saw the move from USC, UCLA to the Big Ten. I think a lot of fans immediately thought of when the Big East kind of fell apart and the American was formed. And right when UCF gets another, ticket to the Power Five, it's like, here we go again. But I actually think the Big 12 is in a position of power right now compared to the Pac-12. There's been a lot of reporting done by Brett McMurphy and CBS Sports and some of these other national writers saying the Big 12, and the new commissioner said it himself, the Big 12 is looking to grow. I think they're going to give a lifeboat to some of these extra other Pac-12 schools that once the TV money, once that becomes clear that there's not really a good future in the Pac-12, you'll see some of those teams potentially move into the Big 12. So while I think some fans maybe were worried at first, like, here we go again, like I said, I think big picture wise, I think it's good for the Big 12 because they're going to be able to add teams from the Pac-12 and compete with the Big 10 and the SEC.
I think you're absolutely right because Brett McMurphy, you mentioned that other reporters have said that the Big 10 is not through expanding, that they're looking at Washington and Oregon and maybe Cal and Stanford from the Pac-12. If they were to take those four schools, guess what? The Big 12, the remaining schools like Utah, the two Arizona schools, they're going to bolt to the Big 12. So I agree with you. I think the Big 12 is in a position of strength, and maybe it's a backhanded slap at the Big 12. But the reason the Big 12 is more stable, Jason, is because there aren't a whole lot of schools in the Big 12 that the Big 10 wants, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, it's kind of like the lost toys forming together. If you put everything together, maybe you have something there. So who knows?
Absolutely. All right, predictions. Where do we want to start with our predictions? Who will be UCF's MVP this year?
I think the MVP for me this year is going to be Ryan O'Keefe. I know they've added some pieces on offense, and if everyone can stay healthy, it's easy to say Isaiah Bowser and the way they want to run the ball. But at the end of the day, Ryan O'Keefe is one of the most versatile players in all of college football. Last year, the best play UCF ran was give the ball to Ryan O'Keefe, and I think it's going to continue to be a fact this season. So for me, he's the most valuable player for UCF.
The quarterback is always the most valuable player. John Rhys Plumlee, he's back at quarterback. He started at quarterback for 8 games at Ole Miss and ran for over 1,000 yards. I'm going to make a prediction right now. John Rhys Plumlee, if he stays healthy, will run for more than 1,200 yards at UCF.
Wow.
And that doesn't even count his passing yardage. So I'm going John Rhys Plumlee here. All right, give me a breakout candidate for this season.
I mentioned him earlier when talking about the loss of Tatum Bethune. UCF brought in a bunch of different guys at linebacker. I think Jason Johnson is a guy who, at Eastern Illinois was 2-time FCS All-American. He's going to be similar to Bryson Armstrong, last season FCS All-American from Kennesaw State. I think he's going to become a really important piece of the defense. His veteran presence is invaluable for UCF.
I'm going to go with a transfer wide receiver from Gus Malzahn's old school, Kobe Hudson. John Rhys Plumlee is going to be looking for sort of a security blanket. I think Kobe Hudson could be that security blanket when he drops back the pass. and throws the ball. He was one of Auburn's best receivers last year. So I'm going with Kobe Hudson here as UCF's breakout candidate. All right, some quick over-unders. Over-under 9.5 wins for UCF this year.
I'm going to take the over. I think they at least get 10 wins. I think anything less than that would be pretty disappointing. They should be competing for a conference title this year, so over 9.5 wins for me.
Jason, you know if UCF doesn't win all their games, UCF fans will be disappointed, okay? I'm going to go, but I'm going to go over as well. I think UCF is, I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated, but I think they should win 10 or 11 at least this year. So I'm going to go over as well. Over under 2.5 sold out UCF home games this season with a caveat. True sellouts, not announced sellouts.
I'm going to take the over. You look at the home schedule, it's the first time ever that UCF is hosting two Power 5 opponents in the same season. So if you give me Louisville and Georgia Tech, and then you add in Cincinnati in Orlando, those three games are going to be true sell-out games.
You know what? I was going to go under here, but you've convinced me. You've changed my mind, Jason Beede. I'm going to go over as well. If I think UCF could win 11 or 12 games, that means the fan base is going to be excited. They've sold a bunch of season tickets. So yeah, and they're trying to preview and make a big splash heading into the Big 12 next season. They're going to want to show that they support their team. I'm going over as well on this one. Are you ready for some rapid fire?
Always, Mike, always.
All right, this is my favorite segment. We end up with some rapid fire. Should UCF be worried Travis Williams leaves after this season, their defensive coordinator?
I think they'd be foolish if they weren't worried. I mean, it's something that should be in the back of the mind of Gus Malzahn this season. They need to give Travis Williams a pay raise. He's one of the up-and-coming defensive coordinators in the country. Speaking of coaches and coaches changes, what happened to our boy Scott Frost? He was bragging recently about offensive linemen throwing up 15 to 20 times at practice. That doesn't seem healthy to me.
Okay, first of all, Frosty can't catch a break up in Nebraska. If you listen to the clip, he was jokingly saying how hard the linemen are working up there under their new offensive line coach. And he jokingly said, yeah, they're vomiting 15 or 20 times per game. You can't even make a joke in today's social media world without, being accused of player abuse. So that's what I think about that. All right, speaking of Scott Frost in Nebraska, they are in the Big Ten. The Big Ten completes a 7-year, $7 billion media rights deal with CBS, NBC, and Fox. How crazy is that?
It's crazy that the Big Ten's not going to be on ESPN. I think that's really crazy. And I'm not surprised at the dollar figure. It's almost, we talk about the Power 5, it's heading towards a Power 2 between the Big Ten and the SEC. And to see this big TV number, it is pretty crazy to me.
Yeah.
One conference that isn't getting a big TV number is the American Athletic. It's this last year's UCF's last season in the AAC. Do you think the Knights can finish and leave out on top, Mike?
By God, it's the inaugural UCF football now. Yes, UCF wins the conference championship and bids sayonara to Mike Oresco, who probably really never liked UCF all that much anymore. One of the most beloved players in UCF history, Shaquem Griffin, announces his retirement from the NFL earlier this week. What's your favorite Shaquem memory at UCF, Jason?
I think my favorite Shaquem Griffin memory is his performance in the Peach Bowl. It was on the biggest stage against one of the biggest opponents. Specifically for me, there was a moment where I think about his play. He had a sack. He took down Jared Stidham. It was one of my most favorite photos. After the sack, he celebrated, and you could just feel that he was unleashing his energy and just proud. And he knew at that point UCF was going to win the game, finish undefeated. So that performance in the Peach Bowl is one of a kind.
My favorite memory of Shaquem Griffin wasn't even in a football game. It was at his pro day at UCF, and he didn't even get invited to the combine until everybody said, hey, you got to invite this guy to the combine. He gets invited to the combine, runs the fastest time a linebacker had ever run at the combine in 15 years, and then his pro day, there's all sorts of national media there. to see Shaquem Griffin. So he showed everybody at the combine that he deserved to be there. And then everybody showed up at UCF's Pro Day to chronicle this great story. That's my favorite memory.
Yeah, no, there's so many memories you can choose from for sure. He had a fantastic career at UCF. Speaking of UCF, looking at the present now, UCF's coaching staff, we know about Travis Williams and his high energy, but UCF, they just did a dance-off. What do you think about this, Mike? What's your reaction to the dance-off here?
I thought it was tremendous. I mean, some of the UCF coaches had some great moves. The players obviously loved it if you watch the video. My only disappointment was, Jason, how come Gus didn't get up there and do a little dance in that
I don't know. I don't know. I think there's video we haven't seen yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, he could dance to a little Paul Simon. Hop on the bus, Gus. Make a new plan, Stan. No need to be coy, Roy. Just get yourself free. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Gus dance to that. All right, that's going to do it for the inaugural 2022 edition of UCF Football Now. We're going to do a show every week. It's going to drop, drops about Wednesday or Thursday at OrlandoSentinel.com. Be looking out for that. Also be looking out this Sunday, the football preseason special coming out in the Orlando Sentinel. You can go out and get it, obviously, at all the newsstands. You can also get it online as well. Digital subscriptions, just pennies per day. So subscribe to the Orlando Sentinel and get that Orlando Sentinel football preseason special section coming out this Sunday. We will talk to you next week. For Jason Beede, I'm Mike Bianchi. We'll see you on UCF Football Now.